Welcome to a masterclass on how to take that idea or that business that you've been currently running and turn it into a machine of sorts to generate predictable revenue. And most of all, to do this in a manner where it's process-oriented. You don't have to worry about things breaking or falling apart. You see regular growth in your business, in your cash flow. This is the topic we're going to be covering in this masterclass. But I can tell you from personal experience, it's not always easy. I remember the day I decided to quit my job and become an entrepreneur. It was Thanksgiving 2003. And that decision changed my life. It's the reason I'm here as the founder of Mindvalley right now. I remember a moment almost 4.5 to 5 years later. It was May 2008. And we were on the verge of bankruptcy. Our business was generating cash flow, $250,000 a month, but we were losing $15,000 a month. Mike, my business partner, he had an MBA from Stanford, but we were losing money. And it was dawning on us that if something didn't change, we would soon be laying off members of our 18-person team. Now, what happened is very often in moments of crisis, you force yourself to grow. It was the summer of 2008. And I decided to go deep into growth. I actually stepped back from my business and I started investing in learning how to run a business. I signed up for networking groups, I attended seminars, I read books on business, I went deep even in mindset and spirituality. 1 year later, my life was really different. And I want you to know that that's possible. This type of rapid shifts can happen, but it all starts with how you view yourself as an entrepreneur and the tools you apply to making your business a predictable, easy source of growth and revenue. So before we bring on our guest today, I want to make sure that you've taken the Business Freedom Audit. The Business Freedom Audit is a downloadable PDF. You should have gotten a link to it when you signed up for this masterclass. And this audit is going to give you a realistic idea of your current baseline. What you're going to see is that just from this masterclass, you're going to improve in terms of your business score. And if you go further learning from Eric, you're going to be at a whole different level. So make sure you've completed and done the audit. Now, if you forgot to do the audit or if you haven't done it, don't worry. Pay attention on this masterclass. Do the audit after the masterclass. Here's what's going to happen. In this class, you're going to learn to refine that dream so you become an entrepreneur whose life is easy. And that is the trick. It's not always easy. Most entrepreneurs fail in their first 5 years. Most businesses disappear before year 5. Now, our guest today, Eric, has so many tools at his disposal. People who go deep into studying with Eric completely transform their business. Of all the ideas Eric could share, I asked him to pick the one that I thought could be most effective for you right now. So make sure you have a journal handy. Put aside Facebook, Instagram, any other type of distraction, and be prepared to go deep with us. We are going to give you our best. I want this to be an hour-long class that you will never forget. And all I ask is that you give us your best. Ready to begin? Let's get started with an introduction to our guest today. I first came to know Eric Edmeades as the WildFit guy. Eric, among the many businesses he started, he happened to create what I believe is the most effective health transformation protocol on the planet. It's called WildFit. It completely changed my life. It literally changed the shape of my body. It changed my relationship to food. I became such a fan, I put all of my employees on Eric's WildFit program. I then brought WildFit to Mindvalley, and since then we've put tens of thousands of people on WildFit. It has completely transformed the health of the Mindvalley community. Now, as it turns out, WildFit was one of several businesses that Eric had started and made highly successful. One of his most successful exits was a military research and development company. It developed high-tech dummies that made trauma simulation possible. He started a mobile computing company. And Eric, being Eric, has a very unique quality. Eric's superpower is that he is probably the most effective teacher trainer I've ever encountered in my life. And now he's going to apply some of these tools to transform the way you learn about business. And that's what is the missing ingredient. Eric doesn't just build a business, he knows how to teach people at a fundamental way how to be successful entrepreneurs. But first, a little bit more about Eric's background. Eric received a medal from the Canadian Senate for his work transforming people's lives. I'd like to read out to you a couple of incredible endorsements of Eric and his brilliant mind. First, from Dr. Ivan Meissner, PhD. Ivan said about Eric, Eric sees business clearly. He understands people, systems, and frankly, how to get things done. If you have a business challenge, 5 minutes with Eric just might be the right idea. And then you have this comment from Jack Canfield, who wrote the book Success Principles and created the entire Chicken Soup for the Soul empire of books. Jack said, Eric is an excellent heart-centered business leader. Anyone starting or running a business would be well served to spend some time with him. Finally, the late Chet Holmes. Chet was one of the greatest business minds I knew, and Chet said this about Eric. Eric is a top-level consultant. He has a brilliant business mind, and you should count yourself lucky if you have the opportunity to work with him, and you should be terrified if he is working for your competitor. So please give a big, rousing welcome to our guest today, Eric Edmeades. Eric, welcome to Mindvalley.
Thanks for having me. Good to be back.
Well, welcome back to Mindvalley. You've been one of our most highly rated teachers, thanks to WildFit. Why this new topic?
I made the decision to teach business because of two things. One is I got a completely random phone call from Tony Robbins' company asking me to teach business. I didn't know at the time why they thought to call me, but they needed a speaker. They called me, they booked me, and out of the blue, I went to go speak at this big business mastery event. When somebody starts a business, there are all kinds of things they don't know. Like, here's something people don't know. They don't know how terrible it is to fire people. They don't know that when they start a business. They don't know what it's like to not be able to sleep at night because you don't have the cash flow to make your payroll. Like, they don't think about those things before they start the business. And here I was on stage talking and sharing distinctions about these things and how to manage them. And people were coming up to me going, I'm going to sleep properly for the first time in years because of your talk. And I was like, I'm in. I want to do more of this. I think also there's another really important thing to talk about with entrepreneurship, and that is that I really believe that entrepreneurship is the opportunity to work a little smarter and a little harder than most people do for a short period of time in order to create a life that other people can only dream about when they buy a lottery ticket. Teaching people about entrepreneurship is about helping them create financial freedom for themselves, financial security and freedom. It's about improving their quality of life so that they're free to travel the way they want and educate their children the way they want and live the way they want. But it's also, and this is something missed by so many people, it is ultimately about security. It's about feeling safe. Look, if we've learned one thing when something like 9/11 happens, or the big mortgage crisis of 2008, or the COVID-19 pandemic, what we've learned is that job security isn't a thing. Jobs can disappear. But if you have a robust, solid business that operates smoothly and adds value for people, you have the ultimate job security and your family is safer. And so again, the reason that I wanted to get involved in teaching people about entrepreneurship is quality of life. I want people to feel safer, be safer, and have more freedom in their lives.
So Eric, you call it business freedom. What is that?
Well, let's start with what it isn't. I'll tell you what it isn't. See, here's the way business freedom works for most people. They have a job and they stop liking their job because they feel constrained or they're not being paid enough. One day they quit their job and they have freedom. They feel phenomenal levels of freedom. They go, I'm gonna start a business, and they go home and they're designing business cards and web pages and they feel very free. But then there comes a point in the days or maybe weeks after that where they begin to realize that they have to do everything. I mean, they have to do everything. They got to do the accounting, they got to do the marketing, they got to do the delivery, customer service, answer the phones, take out the trash. Like, they're doing it all. So they quit one job. Now they're doing 14 jobs and they're not making any money.
I'm laughing because I've been there. Like that was you're describing me at one point.
What's amazing about that is that business doesn't have to be that way. So you ask what business freedom is. There are two types of real business freedom. Type 1 business freedom is where you have a business that operates so smoothly, so automatically, with the right people, the right systems, that you get to go to work every day doing what you love. In other words, you're spending 95% of your time. If you had a pie chart of your week, of the time in your week, 95 to 99% of it is you doing things you want to do, you doing things you enjoy. Now, type 2 business freedom is where you don't even have to do that anymore, where the business operates so smoothly that you being there is optional. Now, I know a lot of people don't want that. They're like, I'm building a business because I want to be in it. It's my passion. Why would I? Well, let me just tell you, I've learned some things about passion. They change over time. Just because you start a business doing what you love right now doesn't mean that 5 years from now, you're still going to be wanting to do that same thing. Also, if the business needs you, you don't have security. And so there's a game that we play at our live workshops. It's so fun. We call it the Business Freedom Game. And the way it works is we have everybody stand up. We tell the audience, stay standing as long as you pay yourself an equivalent wage to what you could be earning in the private sector. If you're not, you need to sit down. Now, this is a really interesting one. In different countries, you have different effects, but I can tell you what happens most commonly in North America. You lose about half the people right now because they're subsidizing their businesses. Now, I'm not going to go so deep into this at the moment, but what I will tell you is this, is your business should always be paying you a fair wage for what you're doing, if only so that the business gets used to paying you that amount, so one day when you want to replace yourself, the business can afford it. Otherwise, you're subsidizing it. In fact, if you want to really talk about business valuations, the worst thing you can do is subsidize your business by working really cheap and then getting a valuation done of your business. And then during due diligence, they come along and go, oh, so it's really not worth that much because you've not been paying yourself properly? It's important that you pay yourself properly. No. So now I often let some of the people back in the game at that point because I like round one, okay, everybody can stand back up again. But here's the deal. Now you can remain standing as long as you are not working more than 60 hours a week, 80%. Poof. You immediately lose people. Now, here's what I want to say. If you don't have a family and you're very young and you love what you're doing and you're working over 60 hours a week, maybe that's okay. But if you have a family, I'm thinking that's too much. And so we don't let them back in the game at that point. If you sat down at that point, you're now out of the game. Now, stay standing as long as you take the requisite number of vacation days for your jurisdiction. So if you live in North America, Canada, America, it's 2 weeks vacation every year. If you live in Europe, it's 4 to 5 weeks. As long as you take the appropriate number of vacation days for an employee in your country, then you can stay standing. If not, you need to sit down. Now, what's really fascinating about this is that I then have to point out one more thing. This does not mean being on your mobile device the whole time, and then immediately more people sit. Because they're taking their 2 weeks, but they're on the phone the whole time.
God, this is painful. When 5 years into my business, I would have sat down on the first question. You know what I was paying myself 5 years into the business? I had a freaking computer engineering degree. I was paying myself $3,200 a month. That's it, right? That was 1/3 what I would have earned in the private sector. If I paid myself more, we would have gone out of business.
These little things really are a way of measuring where we are. What's really neat is at this point, the audience, there will only be about 10% of them still standing at this point, but we give them 2 more. The second last one is, you can remain standing. Wait, you've just heard that there's an incredible trip that you've always wanted to do. It leaves with me at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. We're gonna leave for 2 weeks. You have no access to the internet. If your business will continue to run smoothly in your absence, then you can stay standing. If your business would suffer in your absence, then you need to sit. Boom, we lose almost everybody that's left. And in a room of 400 or 500 people, there'll be 1 or 2 people still standing at this point, maybe 3 or 4. And then I'll say this, all right, the trip that you found out about, it's not for 2 weeks. It's for a year. It doesn't leave tomorrow, it leaves in a week. You have a week to prepare. You have a week to prepare, you will have internet access 15 minutes every Friday for a year. You'll be gone for a year. You may remain standing as long as your business would continue to run smoothly, and listen carefully, grow as if you were there. If that's true, you can stay standing. If not, you need to sit. And then we lose just about everybody, sometimes 1 or 2 left. And then I always ask them 2 questions. Every time I've played this game all over the world, I ask 2 questions. And these 2 questions can teach you so much about business. They did me. Question number 1, if you're still standing at this point, question number 1, if you wanted to sell your business, could you? Universally, the answer is yes. Question number 2, do you want to sell your business? Universally, the answer is no. And that's where I learned something phenomenal about entrepreneurship. If you want to build a business that you can sell one day, you need to build a business that you would never want to sell.
So if you're like me and most people watching at this point, Eric has already changed your mindset a little in terms of how you view the idea of being an entrepreneur. Whether he scared you away, that's debatable. But if it sounds scary, know that there is a solution. There is a whole new way to think about this so you don't fall into the trap I got myself into and so many entrepreneurs who are unaware get themselves into.
I think there's something really important to know about the word entrepreneur. Somebody can be a business owner and actually be more self-employed than an actual business owner. Somebody can be an employee who is more entrepreneurial in their style of being an entrepreneur, or in their style of being an employee. And so the things that we're going to cover are really, really helpful no matter what your project is, whether you are working for somebody, starting your own business, or frankly, you just have a really serious hobby. The distinctions we're going to talk about are how to be more efficient and get things done. And I'll tell you something really valuable about being an employee. A truly good employee knows that their job is to do their job so well that eventually they don't have to do their job anymore. And that is an entrepreneurial idea. The best way to get promoted is to not need to do your job anymore because it is done so well by the people who work for you. So the principles we're going to teach here are, first of all, going to help somebody in a job that is an employment situation become an even more entrepreneurial employee and allow themselves to earn more promotions and pay rises and so forth, for sure. But it's also going to lay the groundwork for them for the day they're ready to start their own business if they ever want to.
Now let's go on to the second reason why people might decide that the content that they're about to hear may not apply to them. This sounds like it's going to be too much time.
That's a great objection. If somebody thinks that it's too much time for them, then what I suggest they do is don't start a business. Now, listen, I may sound a little jaded about that, but at the end of the day, you know, what we're going to be doing on this workshop is condensing time for you. Like, here's maybe the best way I can put this for anybody. When I started my first business, I was a kid. I was 27 years old. I was in a foreign country. I had a pregnant wife. I didn't know anything about anything. Everything was an experiment. It took me 6 years to get to business freedom. After I sold that business, I traveled around the world, did a bunch of stuff, made some bad investments, and wanted to start a new business one day. And so I was starting a new business without a bunch of capital in a very similar industry in a different country. And this time it only took me 18 months before I didn't have to go to work anymore. So if somebody's worried that they don't have enough time, then they all the more want to learn the distinctions that are going to give them more time. I have time. I mean, if I look at what I've been able to do in my life as a result of entrepreneurship, I've traveled to over 55 countries. I've climbed Kilimanjaro 7 times. I'm an avid wildlife photographer. I've started many of my hobbies into businesses. Like, it's not that I have more time than other people. It's that by locking down entrepreneurship and making businesses work for me, it gives me more time.
Now, the next excuse that someone might have is, you know, let me start a business first, and then this knowledge is important.
I've heard that so many times. Like, I have spoken all over the world on business. And in fact, my very, very first speaking tour was an accidental tour. I did an event in London, England. I no kidding, thought they brought me there to speak about WildFit because that's what I was speaking about. And I got there 15 minutes till I'm on stage and I go, I'm going to teach about and he goes, no, these are entrepreneurs. They're here to learn about business. We read in the newspaper you sold your company. That's why you're, like, no kidding, 15. I went on and I talked about business. And in that room, it was all entrepreneurs and it was great. But immediately they invited me to fly to Singapore and speak to the next group. And as a result of this one talk, I did a full world tour, invite to invite to invite. It was incredible. And at every event, except for the first one, I would have people come up to me and they'd be like, wow, this is really great stuff. I'd like to come and learn more from you after I start my business. And I'm like, oh, hold on a minute now. So are you trying to say to me that you'd want to metaphorically build the building first and then come back and work on the foundation after that?
Now, the final question, and I want to make sure we disrupt this idea, is I've already started my business. It's too late for me to learn anything new.
Yeah, I think I was like that a little bit. I think I had some of that where I had my business and then somebody would come along and offer me some mentorship or what have you. And I'm like, oh, I'm already doing this, or I'm already trying this, or what have you. And maybe one of the best lessons I ever got in this comes back from all my times with the Hadza Bushmen in Africa, where the chief invited me to be in an archery competition once. And I had done archery before. I mean, I'm no expert, but I'll never forget. I'm holding the bow and I'm getting ready to pull the bow back, right? I'm trying to, and I can't. Like, the bow is too stiff. I cannot pull the bow back. I can't, and there are people watching. My ego is starting to get hurt here. And then the chief walks up to me and he moves the bow into my body. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. If I can't pull it, how am I ever going to get leverage to do that? And the chief says, no, push. And all I can tell you is there's about 1,000 things like that inside a business, where you're doing it one way, And when you
Wow.
start to hear the advice, it feels uncomfortable, but uncomfortable is the path to growth. And so that's why now is the time to work on somebody's business if it's already established, because there are cracks or there are things that you're doing that you think work quite well. But the slightest distinction can change everything.
So at this point, I hope you're aware of why what you're about to learn is so important. And I want you to know, when I say that going through this training today, if you're an entrepreneur or planning on being one, could fundamentally change your life, I'm saying that because what you're about to learn are the ideas I wish I had studied, I had learned before I went into my entrepreneurship journey. It would have completely changed the way I thought about business. You know, before we film a class like this, I sit down with the author and we plan what we're going to teach. And as Eric was telling me about his ideas and what he was teaching, one of the feelings I felt was interesting. It was the feeling of regret. I felt regret. Why didn't I act smarter when I was starting out, when I was in my early years? Why didn't I bother to study this? And that feeling of regret made me uncomfortable. This is why I'm so, if I sound like I'm pushy to make you stay and go through this, it's because I don't want you to have that same feeling of regret. Now, the first thing, one of the first exercises that Eric did with me, which I'm asking him to do with you, is to help you see in your head the type of business you want to create. There are two types. Eric?
Right. So we talked about this, that we classify business freedom in two different sort of frequencies or two different levels. One is that the business has the right systems, the right people, the right processes, so that the entrepreneur shows up for work and does what they want. So my example is for the creative entrepreneur. Imagine you walk in your office, whiteboards all on the wall, and your job is to fill up the whiteboard every day, and you've got a team that will take your ideas off the whiteboard and make them into reality. Like a creative wants their business to be like that. So level one business freedom is that you work in your passion. You get to do the thing that you love the most. So I'd love you to take a moment right now and just think about that. What would it be like for you? In fact, I saw something fantastic from Muhammad Ali once. Muhammad Ali said, imagine your life. Your life is this long. He goes, how much of it is already gone? And then he goes, and how much of what's left are you going to sleep? And then he goes, and how much of what's left are you going to work? And you know what it made me think about? It made me think that he realized that most people regard work as a loss of life. But if you are loving what you do every day, you get that life back. It's like 8 hours of extra juice, 8 hours of extra life every day. So take a moment now, think about that. Level one business freedom, every day that you go to work, you spend 95% of your time in your passion. Now let's go to the next level. You might think that that's enough, that level of business freedom is enough because you love your passion. I just want you to know you're going to grow and you're going to mature and you're going to change. And so there may come a day where you don't want to fix teeth anymore, or you don't want to fill up whiteboards, or you don't want to do whatever it is that you're doing in the business. Or there may come a circumstance, an emergency, or something that makes it necessary for you to step away from the business. If you are still needed by your business, then your business might come to an end. And so real security for you and your family is level two business freedom, where your company runs so smoothly. You have the right people, the right systems, where you don't have to go to work anymore. Right now, I want to know, I really want you to think about, what would your life be like when that happens? What will you do? Where will you put your effort? Will you travel? Will you build another business? What kind of social projects would you take on? How much time would you spend with your family? What would your health look like? If you didn't have to go to work anymore, what would you do at that time? These levels of business freedom are absolutely life-changing. The question is, which one do you want? And I kind of hope it's both.
So let's get started. What do we do now to begin moving on this path towards business freedom?
What's interesting about this is I didn't go to business school. I don't have an MBA. In fact, I think there's a clue in the name MBA. It's Master of Business Administration. So it's teaching you how to manage a business. And what I really wanted was to know how to own a business, which is a different thing. It's a different skill set, just like managing a house. If you're a property manager, that's different than being the house owner, right? It's a different thing. For the 2 years before I started my business, I took on a crazy project. In 1994, I started publishing a magazine on the internet called the Success Express Journal. It was an email-based magazine. I sent it out to 8 friends. But my friends loved this little e-zine so much that they started sending it to their friends. And 2 years later, I had 70,000 subscribers in 70 countries around the world. It was incredible. But the problem was, in the very first issue, I did a book review. and I promised to do one in every episode. And it was weekly. So for 2 years, I had to read a book or go to a seminar like every week for 2 years. It was like getting a master's degree in business and marketing and personal development, all this stuff. But it was magical because when I did one day start my business, I realized that I could be the guinea pig. I realized that I could go and test all the things that I learned from Stephen Covey, from Michael Gerber, from Tony Robbins, from all of them, that I could test this stuff, experiment in my business with it. And I did. So if you do this one thing at the startup stage of your business, and we can share with you how to do it in an established business as well. If you do this one thing, it can change everything. And it's something that we call role mapping. So let's talk about what a role map is. A role map looks like an organizational chart, but rather than being built around people, it's built around the actual roles in your organization. So, at the top level, there's going to be somebody that might be the CEO, or in my case, in Britain, it was called a managing director, but it's the ultimate manager of the business. Then there's going to be another layer of management underneath that, finance manager, IT manager, operations manager, marketing director, that sort of thing. Now wait, hang in. If you're in startup mode and you're thinking, I don't have any of those people, it's not about people. You're going to have to do those roles, right? Aren't you? I mean, if you're going to start a business or you're running one now, even if you're the CEO, if you don't have a marketing director, aren't you doing the marketing? Are you with me? So the boxes are not about people, they're about the roles. So underneath each of those top level managers, then you'd have the roles that exist under them. So under your finance director, maybe you have somebody doing invoicing, somebody doing accounts payable, receivable, bookkeeping. So I'm looking at the roles, not the people. So step one is to create the map based on the roles that exist in your business. The top part is easy. Managing director, CEO, you're going to have 4 or 5 mid-level management roles in the business, and then they get a little bit more custom for your business. What happens in your accounting department? What happens in your operations department? What are the roles? So step one is to create the map. Now, step two, the next stage is to populate the boxes. Now, at first this is fun because it means you get to write your name in the managing director or the CEO box. I love that feeling. I still remember I wrote my name in the box. Vision, I'm the CEO. I'm sitting on the carpet in my living room. I'm the CEO. But then I had to write my name in marketing manager, finance director, operations director. Then I had to write my name as warehouse manager, shipping and receiving, invoicing. I suddenly started feeling so overwhelmed. I suddenly started realizing that I quit my perfectly good paying job so I could do 14 jobs and I don't have a salary. It was scaring the hell out of me. But then we moved to the next stage. And the next stage is exciting. The next stage is to prioritize your exits. Now, before we prioritize the exits, let's talk a little bit about exit strategies. Do you have one? The real lesson is that the pace of change in business is so rapid these days that you don't need to know what the exit strategy is right now, but there's one consistent truth, whether you plan to go public, you plan to sell, you plan to license, you plan to franchise. It doesn't really matter. You plan to hand it off to a relative. It doesn't matter what your exit strategy is. You cannot be integral to the business if you're going to exit in some way at one point. And there are a series of what we call mini exits that you have to do long before you can have any exit strategy, no matter what that exit strategy is. So stage two is to prioritize your mini exits. How do you do that? Well, with a red pen, circle any of the boxes where your name or anybody's name is in a box doing a job they dislike or they're not that good at. If you dislike it or you're not that good at it, circle it in red. What that means is you're prioritizing that you're going to get out of these jobs as quickly as possible. Then with a green pen, circle the next ones. The ones that you're pretty good at, you can do them, you don't hate it, you can do it for now, but that's your next run. That's your next mini exit batch. And then circle in blue the stuff you're happy to do for some time. So in my case, I was like, I do not want to be the warehouse manager. I do not want to be doing the shipping, the receiving. I don't want to be doing any of that stuff. I'm not doing the accounting. Now, I still needed to be doing some of those jobs for some time. Is it true? I still needed to be, say, the finance director for some time or the operations director for some time. So those things were in green for me. And I was very happy to be the marketing manager and the CEO for a long time. So they were blue. Now what I had is a prioritized map of my mini exits. And you know what's really crazy about this? I'm going to share something powerful with you about psychology. If you have a job that you have to do that you hate, that you don't like, that you're not good at, say for example, in my case, accounting. I can do it. I'm actually relatively good at it. I dislike it immensely. And so here's what's crazy. If you feel like you're going to have to do that job forever, you procrastinate it, you put it off, and when you finally do it, you rush it and get it wrong. But if you've put a clock on it, if you now have prioritized, I'm gonna be able to stop doing this job one day, then you do it with pride. You document it, and you make it a lot easier to replace yourself in that job in the future. So if you go through those steps, you will have a roadmap for genuine business freedom. And even now, as you're listening to me, imagine even what it would be like to step out of all the red boxes. What would that be like for you to go to work and not have to do any of those red jobs anymore? Wouldn't that feel great?
So Eric, I know where you're going with this, but are people really going to give up these jobs that they're doing?
Oh, they are. Now, there are some things that will get in the way. There are some emotional addiction issues. Like there are times that people are doing jobs because it gives them some kind of emotional kick, and we can help them with that and figure that out. There are times that people are doing a job because they feel that they're saving money by doing it. They feel like they're saving money. I'm going to do this job to save money, and then they're costing themselves a fortune. In other words, in my case, in my warehouse, I got this big project, my very first big project, and we bought 1,000 handheld computers, and we had to change the little chips in the back. And it was 6 screws on the back of every computer, 6 screws, 1,000 machines, that's 6,000 screws. And I'm gonna do all that because I don't wanna pay somebody $15 an hour to do it for me. And when I suddenly did the math of how much I was worth in the sales room, compared to how much it would cost me to hire somebody, I realized that I was saving money and costing myself a fortune.
So in my case, this was the mistake I made. When I started my first company, I tried to do everything because I wanted to save money. And one day, and I remember it, it was 2004. It was about a year, 18 months after I'd started the business. And I was sitting in Starbucks working on my computer, and I was frustrated that day because I had spent 4 hours answering customer support emails. Now, I thought I have to be responding to customers because I love my customers. How cool is it that the founder is responding to every customer personally? But that day, it hit 4 hours, and it'd been four to 5 hours, like for the past couple of days. And then I realized something. I decided to calculate how much I was making per hour. And my goal was to get to $50 an hour. And you know how much I was making back then? 18 months into my business? $15 an hour. But this freaking sucked. So I got on Craigslist, which was the job matching site of that time in 2004, and I decided to see what would it take to hire a customer support agent. And I found that it was about $12 an hour. And that was the realization I had. Well, what if I could offset these customer support time to an agent I could hire, free up 4 hours of my day, and spend that on growing the business? I had a computer engineering degree. Programming was worth $50 an hour. And that's when the realization hit. I put up a job ad. I hired my very first employee. I remember her name was Adele. She was from Atlanta. She took over customer support. And you know what? She did it better than I possibly could because she was dedicated 8 hours a day to customer support. I went into programming, which is a much higher hourly rate task, and I built a CRM for the company. I optimized our checkout, and we grew and grew and grew. Within 1 month, I realized I needed to make a second hire. Today, I have close to 400 employees. If I had just learned this about 2 years earlier, I would have probably saved myself a lot of time and a lot of wasted opportunity.
Yeah, that's exactly the same situation with me. I recognized the minute I hired a guy named Michael to work in that warehouse, and he was doing 20 some odd hours at also about 15 pounds an hour at that stage. And I was worth a couple of 100 pounds an hour in the sales room. And so immediately, within 3 weeks, it boosted our profitability dramatically because previously I had been doing jobs to save money and costing myself a fortune. So that's a very important point. For every one of the roles that you've identified on your role map, is recognizing what are the key indicators, what are the key reports that you want out of each of those roles so that you can hand that role over to somebody and sleep well.
Eric, so I see how this can be really useful if you're just starting out, but what about if you're an established entrepreneur?
Oh, well, it's even better. It's even more powerful because you see the difference between a role map and an organizational chart is that a role map is diagnostic. An organizational chart is a graphical representation of who works for you, who talks to whom. That's it. But a role map is diagnostic, and here's what I mean. You do the same steps. You create the role map, but now you populate the role map with all the people that work for you. So you put the names in the boxes. So as you put the names in the boxes, you're going to identify some interesting things. You're going to identify that one person's name might be in too many boxes. It might be yours, right? Or you might identify that there are too many names in one box. In other words, the clarity of who's responsible for that role isn't so clear. Or you might find that you've got somebody's name in a box for a job they're not good at or that they don't like. So you see, immediately when I'm consulting with a client, I will sit down and, on a paper napkin over lunch and do a role map with them. And then I will immediately say, oh, here's what's going on inside your company. You've got politics over here, you've got stress over here, you've got overtime over here. Now, how do you know that from this one document? Because if you go through the process properly, it's a diagnostic tool.
Amazing. And that is such a powerful lesson for everyone who's running a business. I love that lesson, Eric. So we've spoken about role mapping and we've spoken about the concept of mini exits. What is the next idea that you'd like to share with us?
All right, so whether we've done the role map as a startup with an R name, like one name is in all the boxes, or 2 or 3 names are spread out, or you have a really established company and there's many names, the next step is the same. And the next step is going to seem pretty monumentous when I first bring it up for you. In fact, the minute I say procedures, some of you are already thinking of switching over to Facebook. Stay with us now. The kittens are not that cute over there. Listen, I'm going to share with you why most people don't have really good procedures for their business, and that is that they think it's this huge project, and it isn't. I'm going to share with you that it can be really easy and the ultimate path to your freedom. So what does this mean? It means every single role that's on your role map has a number of tasks, processes that exist within that role. So for example, in your accounting department, there are things like raising an invoice, chasing a debt, reconciling the bank, right? There are these things that have to happen within that department. And what is going to make all the difference in your business is having those things written out and documented. Simple procedures and templates that make sure that your company produces consistent results. Very important to make this happen, and it is ultimately how you become free because it changes everything. It means your company can produce consistent results. It also means that when you go to hire people, that training is 1/10 of the effort and 10 times more effective because training now works like this. Oh, hello, thank you for coming to work for us. We'd like you to raise an invoice. Here's the document on how to raise an invoice. Just follow the steps. That's training. And you just sit there and watch. If they've got a question, they ask the question. If you need to make a change to the procedure, you make a change to the procedure. Most companies train people like this. Somebody who's already doing the invoicing shows the person how to do the invoicing. That person retains about 80% of the lesson. That person trains the next person. Right? It's called trickle-down training, and it never works. Over time, it causes a degradation of quality in the company. So what do you want? You want that every single thing that happens more than once in your company, there is a written out procedure for it. Again, I know this sounds like a major task, but I want to give you some hints. First thing is, just think for a moment. If all you did was write 2 procedures a day, just 2. I'm talking about the most basic thing. Take out a piece of paper if you want, and you're about to raise an invoice. All you do in the squiggliest shorthand, open accounting software, click raise invoice, pull up the company. You just write it down. That's it. And by the way, haven't you ever done this? Haven't you ever solved a problem? You've solved some problem with Google Docs, you've solved some problem, and then 4 months later, you've needed to solve that problem all over again? Haven't you ever done that? What if you wrote it down? What if you'd written it down step by step? Then 6 months later, when you have to do that task again, you save yourself 30 minutes of research because you already have the procedure written. So, what if you did 2 a day? Think about that. If you did 2 a day and you have roughly 200 work days in the year, that means you have 400 procedures at the end of the year. If you have 400 procedures written out at the end of the year, you have a company that's pretty damn close to being saleable. Because ultimately, when somebody's buying your company, there are a number of things they're buying, and one of the things they're buying is consistent results. And that's what the procedures are going to do for you. I really want you to understand that the more procedures you have for your company, the more consistent your company's results will be. And the more consistent your company's results will be, the more profitable you'll be, and the better you'll sleep at night.
And I want to share an example with the people who are here. So if you've watched my masterclasses before, you notice I always have an iPad. Now, what is on this iPad is actually the proceduralization of this entire masterclass. I sit down with the author and we have a procedure where we plan the content that we're going to deliver to you. And then as we're going through this masterclass, everything is carefully scripted down. I am using a 59-page outline, and it's a set of instructions. It tells me how to host a class, what to wear, the level of excitement to start with. Everything is written down. Now, here's the other thing. We've had the same procedure on a document since 2008. For 12 years, we've been refining and updating this procedure. Every time I do an interview and I learn something, or I see that there's something that needs to change, I go to this one document, I tweak it, and on the next masterclass, it's already here on my script, directly ready for me to shoot. Now, at the same time, every now and then we do a masterclass in a foreign language, and I only speak English, so I can't do those masterclasses. I give this document to a foreign host, and they are able to execute the shoot of that masterclass flawlessly, because they have this 50-page plus document. So this allows me to scale, it reduces errors, and so I'm able to create masterclasses so rapidly in such a lean amount of time because everything is proceduralized. So let's do a quick recap at this point. The first part is the role map. The second part is proceduralization. We started putting all our procedures on Google Drive. On Google Suite, you have a Google Drive. You can create folders for every division of your company. We call our procedures the DNA. So we call it DNA. And when you go into the DNA drive, you see every department in Mindvalley with all their procedures filed in this Google document. I can share the document with someone. And the best part is, if we need to update a procedure, I update one document. Everyone on that team who has that procedure bookmark on their browser sees the updated procedure. It's so easy, it's so affordable, and you can do this easily on Google Drive. So let's go on now to the third idea. Eric?
So obviously, if we're going to have business freedom, we're going to need people. And I want to say that one of the biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs make, one of the most expensive, most stressful, most difficult, and like devastating mistakes that entrepreneurs make is hiring nice, ineffective people. It happens all the time. We the normal interviewing process is we look at applications forms or resumes or what have you. We see that the core points are hit, so then we invite the person in for some sort of interview. We sit and have an interview, and what are we looking for in the interview? We're looking for resonance. Do we like this person? Do they feel good? And then if they feel good and they got the points from the resume and they had some good references, we're like, okay, we hire them. Now, the trouble is you've spent money on the recruiting, you've spent time interviewing them, now you've hired them, now you're paying them a salary, now you're training them. And how long does it take to figure out that somebody is a nice, ineffective person? 3 months? So you've paid them 3 months salary, you've lost 3 months in that role where somebody useful could have been, and not only that, you're now setting yourself up for one of the most difficult things any entrepreneur has to do, and that is you need to let somebody go. And that's just unpleasant. So on every level, what I want to help you do is avoid hiring nice, ineffective people. And I don't do it anymore. And that's because of a very powerful interviewing technique that I want to share with you so that you never, ever, ever hire nice, ineffective people again, so that you always get the right person for the right job. I'm going to assume that you recruit from the right place, that you either maybe have a headhunting company or you advertise. I'm going to pick up the point where somebody has sent you a resume and you've seen enough on the resume that you want to interview them. And this is where I'm going to pick up with you. So you're ready to do the interview. In other words, they've scored enough points with you that you feel competent, you feel confident that they're competent. So they're in for the interview now. Now, the first trouble is that many companies, it's almost like they want to stress people out for the interview. I've seen people like, go sit there with the other applicants in fear. The trouble is the more stress and the more fear somebody has when they come in for their interview, the less they are in their natural personality. So you're interviewing their stress personality. That's somebody who hopefully isn't even going to work for you. So you're getting to know their stress personality. You actually do not want to know their stress personality. You might want to know about it, but you really want to meet them, their real personality. So step one is to make sure that you make them as comfortable as possible from the get-go. When they walk in, if you have a receptionist, for example, in a larger company, the receptionist should know their name before they walk in and say, oh, John, oh, Sally, we're so excited you're here. Please, can I get you a coffee or a water? Make them feel valued, and then they will relax, and then you'll meet the real version of them. You want to find a way to find out who they really are. So you start with conversation and you ask them atypical questions. Like, here's a crazy one. Hey, where's your favorite place to go on vacation? And then they go, oh, I love to go camping with my family and love to go out in the outdoors. You've just learned something interesting about them. Or they might answer, oh, vacation? I love going to Vegas, man. Last time I went to Vegas, I woke up in Bangkok. Okay, you've learned something about them. This might not be a culture fit. So by relaxing them and jumping in and just talking with them, you're going to learn some things about them that a normal interview would never let you know. And now we're going to go to some serious ninja skills. Because you do want to ask them some questions about their job, but the thing is, they're ready for these. So you got to ask them in a different way. So one of the ways you do it, you pick up your phone in your hand, like actually have your phone in your hand. And you go, hey, I'm just curious, like if I were to call your boss right now, what would your boss tell me about you? And what's absolutely crazy about this is, if you ask with the right intention and you got the phone in the hand, it sends an unconscious communication to them that their boss is on the phone. And they don't lie. I'm telling you, they don't. The very first time I did this, there was my company in England. I did this, and this guy, I said it to him. I said, well, if I had your boss on the phone right now, what would your... And he goes, oh yeah, my boss would tell you that I'm a lot of fun, that I work hard, but I'm late all the time. He admitted it in the interview. And what was crazy is, just for fun, the next day I did call his ex-boss. You know, I was just curious. And I'm telling you, it was almost word for word. I said, what do you think of John? He's really fun, he's good, he's a good guy, he works hard, but man, is he late all the time. You see, the thing is that in an interview, people are not very good at spontaneous dishonesty. They're good at rehearsed dishonesty. They'll put on a face for you. But if you ask a question like that in a way that causes them to give you an immediate answer about something they haven't prepped for, you're going to get the truth. Here's another example. Don't ask them hypotheticals. Don't say to them, well, what would you do if you had a workplace mishap with somebody where they felt... No. You say to them, tell me about a time you had a disagreement with your boss. Do you see the difference? You see, if you ask them a hypothetical, they'll give you a hypothetical answer. But if you put them on the spot and go, tell me about a time you had a dispute with one of your employees. Tell me about a time that a customer had some kind of freak out in the company. You put them on the spot, and when you say, tell me about a time, you're putting them into their own memory, and they're going to have to give you back an answer from their memory, not some fantasy hypothetical response. Now, when you've done this phase, if you now think you might want to hire them, if they've passed through all this and you're like, yeah, I like them, I feel the resonance, then you're going to move on. If you don't feel like you're going to hire them, you thank them for coming to the interview, you thank yourself for doing such a good interview and saving yourself from hiring a nice and effective person, and you let them go. But if you think there's a chance you're going to hire them, you move to the attack phase. Now, you're not actually going to attack them, but what you're going to do is attack a principle that you would like to check with them so that you can test the response. So I'd like you to imagine you're hiring a salesperson. What are you going to do? You're going to say to them, you know, I've really enjoyed this interview and I feel like you could probably fit in here. I like you. And I'm a little concerned though. You know, our sales team is very competitive and I'm just not picking up that superstar vibe from you. Now, I want to add one thing. There are some cultural differences to the way you do this. If you do that in the United States of America, you can stop right there. But if you're in England or Singapore or Scandinavia or Estonia, you need to add something that we affectionately call the Scandinavian twist. And that's because in some countries, if you do that, you just say, I'm just not picking up that superstar vibe from you. They will just sit there and they'll just allow you to be in the mistake. They won't correct you. So you add a little twist. You go, I'm just not picking up that superstar vibe from you. How do you feel about that? And that gives them permission. And in that moment, you're going to get one of three reactions. One reaction is, yeah, you might be right. It's happened to me. I've been in an interview. I've said that. And they go, yeah, you might be right. You just avoided thousands and thousands of dollars and time wasted. You didn't hire a nice and effective person. Well done. Second reaction you might get, the meltdown. And I've had this one as well. Yeah, I'm just not picking up that superstar vibe from you. What do you mean? I'm a total superstar. I'm a number one. And they melt down. Now you've avoided hiring a lawsuit. Like, this person was trouble waiting to happen. And now you haven't had to hire them. And the third response that you're looking for is, yeah, I can see how you feel that way. I mean, this is an interview. We're quite relaxed here. But I can tell you something. Once I've got the job, I am totally goal-oriented. I will be your number one salesperson within 3 months. You want them to defend the principle that you've attacked them on. Now, you might think this only works with salespeople. No, it works with anybody. You're hiring an accountant. You know, I've really enjoyed this interview. I think you'd fit in very well with our team. I think it'd be fantastic. The thing is, our accounting department is incredibly important to us, like details. We have to be on time and we have to be totally accurate. And I'm just not picking up that same detail-oriented focus from you. 3 reactions. Yeah, maybe you're right. Or, I'm totally detail-oriented. You don't want those. You want the third one. Oh, no. I am detail-oriented. Let me tell you something. If I'm working on your accounts and I've lost 37 cents on your spreadsheet and my wife is calling me for dinner, I can tell you now, she's going to be, come to dinner. No, I lost the 37 cents. I won't. And then she'll finally make me come to dinner and I'll sit at dinner and I'll eat my dinner thinking about your 37 cents and I will not go to sleep that night until I found it. I'm totally detail-oriented.
I mean, I can attest to how much a good hire can do for you. A good hire can change your life. A bad hire can really, really, really wreck wreck your month, right? Because firing people sucks, and there's a huge cost to all of that. Now, Eric, you spoke about role mapping. Is there a tool or a software that makes it easy?
There's a software application called Lucid Charts. There's a great free level where you can build your first role maps, and of course it does all kinds of other stuff like funnel planning and all that stuff. It's a graphic design tool. But you will be able to create your role maps in there very, very nicely, and you'll be able to share them with your team.
So at this point, you've learned some powerful ideas that you can immediately bring into your life and your business to get that vision of yours moving towards a business that is productive for you, that's easy to run, that's generating cash flow, and that fills you with joy every single day. No matter where you're starting from, whether you already have a company and you want it to just be more fluid, more easy, or whether you dream of having that business. Now, I want you to ask yourself a question here. Did you learn things that were valuable that you could directly apply and see a difference in your business? Yes? Did you enjoy the way Eric presented and shared these insights with you? Most of you are going to say yes. And third, did you feel this was time well spent? Congratulations. If you said yes to any of these things, I want to invite you to go deeper with us. We're going to give you a chance to get Eric holding your hand for the next 6 weeks, and it's nowhere near 20 grand a month. What we've designed with Eric is, in the same way we created the world's best health transformation program with Eric, we're now creating what could possibly be the world's best business transformation program. And I want you to judge. You can enroll in this program, and anytime in the next 15 days, with one button, get your money back. We make it easy. No email, no need to call a phone. After you enroll, it's one button to cancel. I can tell you it's going to transform your life. Look, folks, if I just learned 2 ideas that Eric shared with me, if I just learned 2 ideas, how to interview and how to role map, I wouldn't have wasted 2 years of my life doing customer support when I could have outsourced that for a much better rate and freed up so much time. My business would be probably double the size it is right now because I would have bought 2 years of my life back. And that's how I want you to gauge this. Ask yourself, will your business transform if Eric was mentoring you? Now, if you said yes, or even possibly, I invite you to check this out. I want to show you what we've put together. What we've designed on Mindvalley's education platform is a completely transformative experience. Every day, for 20 minutes a day, you're going to log into the platform on your iPad or your smartphone or your Apple TV or your desktop. Thousands of people are going to be starting together, going through this program together, discussing the lessons after their interaction with Eric, and then crossing the finishing line together as fully trained entrepreneurs. Guys, entrepreneurship is like training for a sporting event, right? You don't just jump into it. You need a trainer, you need a coach, you need someone to show you the exact methodologies. And when you do that, your odds of winning are so much better. So Eric, take us through this program that you've created and break it down for us week by week by week by week by week. How do you create this transformation in our prospective entrepreneurs? It's
designed based on 6 weeks as we discussed, and each week focuses on a particular area of your business, and each video each day builds upon that area. So in the first week, we're going to work on the very most important thing. Let me back up by saying this. If you want to build a good business, go study business. But if you want to build a phenomenal business, if you want real business freedom, if you want an incredible lifestyle, then study you. And so the whole first week is about leadership. It's about you as a business owner. It's going to share with you some principles about mental toughness, about decision-making and communication. They're going to help you to be a much more effective leader and an even more powerful entrepreneur. From there, we're going to move into week 2. And in week 2, we're going to do something that you maybe have already done or you've been meaning to do for a long time. And that is we're going to work on your vision. So over the space of 5 days, you're going to design a business plan. It's not a business plan that you're going to write one time and then it'll be done. It will be the opening document that will start the vision for your business. Each day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all the way through a Friday, you're going to be designing each aspect of the business plan in a way that's going to prepare you for building a really phenomenal business, which is going to lead you very naturally to week 3. We're going to move into a deep dive into the role mapping and mini exits process that we walk through in this masterclass. So every single day, I'm going to guide you through very specific exercises around what to do with your role map, how to prioritize it correctly, and how to prepare yourself so that you can exit every one of those roles, and what you can do to make sure that those roles are being done absolutely properly when you leave them so that you can feel good about it. We're talking about the logistical realities and the emotional realities of you getting out of those roles. Week 3 is going to be life-changing, which of course is going to lead naturally into week 4. And week 4 is all about people. It's all about understanding people, how to hire them, how to make sure that you get the very best people. We're going to review the interviewing technique that we talked about today, but we're also going to talk about incredibly important things that are very rarely thought about. For example, induction processes. There are some things that you do on the first day of anybody joining your company. There are things that you can do that day that can ruin their job. I'm telling you, there are mistakes you can make on day 1 that will actually make it very difficult for them to be successful in your business in the long term. Equally, there are things you can do on day 1 that will make sure that they work for you happily, contented, in a fulfilled way for years to come. The first day makes all the difference. We're also going to talk about effective training systems to make sure that you can train people in the most effective way possible. You're going to see that you can train people in 1/10 of the time, but 10 times more effectively than in normal training circumstances. And I'm going to share with you how to create what we call an addictive work environment. You're going to find out that there are some things you can do about your company culture that will make people want to stay with you, which will, by the way, have the reverse impact of making recruiting even more easy, because people will hear about how addictive your work environment is and why they want to be there. And then the last thing I'm going to share with you, and please, this is so important, I'm going to share with you a process, a system that will make sure that you never, ever get sued by an employee ever again. So in week 5, we're going to work on continual and consistent improvement of the business. Now, one of the things that people do when they get in a business is they just get so involved in the doing. They get so caught up in the doing every day that they find themselves like once a year having to look and go, wow, I have to make all kinds of big improvements. In this week, I'm going to share with you a Japanese principle called Kaizen. And we don't have this word in English, but it means consistent and continual improvement, but also crowdsourced improvement, so that the improvement is coming from your employees. The improvement is coming from your customers, and you're capturing those things. I'm going to show you exactly how to do that in a really effective way so that the improvements stick and stay in your business. Listen, if a plane leaves Los Angeles and it's flying to Hawaii and it's off course by 5 degrees, it's going to splash down in the ocean. And if it corrects course only once at the midway, that's not going to guarantee it gets there, and it's going to use a ton of extra fuel. But if it corrects course every second like it does, then it's going to fly the most efficient route possible. And that's the same thing that's going to happen to you by the end of week 5. You're also going to, in week 5, go through an exercise called iceberg spotting. And iceberg spotting is one of the most important things you can do in your business. It's going to help you to stand on the deck of your ship, your business, and look out into the future and identify the threats, the technological, legislative, cultural, competitive threats that might be really dangerous to you. And here's the great news. This is going to be an incredibly important week for improving your business's daily practices and also giving you business continuity and protection against the events of the future, which of course then is going to lead us into week 6. And I know as soon as I tell you what week 6 is about, you're going to wish that we did week 6 as week 1. Because in week 6, we're going to teach you inception marketing. Inception marketing is a system of marketing that is so good that it doesn't feel like marketing, that your clients want to engage with it, and as they engage with it, it subtly gives them logical and emotional realization that they want and need to buy from you and only from you, and to continue to repurchase from you. So each day we're going to go through developing your first inceptive marketing campaign, which is going to help you to boost your lead flow, boost your conversions, but also boost your repurchasing rate, so that once somebody does business with you once, they will continue to buy from you again and again. Now, why is this not in week 1? Because frankly, for most of us, to double sales before we do the first 5 weeks of work would be dangerous.
What I've learned from you in terms of inception marketing has added millions to our bottom line. Now you're wondering, what does this cost? The cost you're about to hear is so low that it might shock you. And it might even seem that this product isn't as powerful as it is. But that's because we want to pass on the savings to you so that we can change lives, create more entrepreneurs, and reach tens of millions of students. Hiring Eric to hold your hand over 6 weeks would be about 20 grand. This program is $995. That's it. But it gets better. As a thank you for staying with us and watching this masterclass for more than an hour, we're going to give you an additional discount. If you scroll down below, you'll see the order menu below your webinar or masterclass video, and you'll see that this program is available for you at a massive discount as a thank you. The class that's about to start for the Path to Business Freedom, Eric's new program with Mindvalley, is a unique class. It's only happening once. Not only is this pre-recorded content in Mindvalley's Quest training methodology, but Eric will be coming on live every week to interact with the students, answer questions, and provide additional training. This doubles the value of the program, and this is a bonus only if you enroll today. By the way, if you look at the pricing for this program, you will see why the vast majority choose to become a member rather than buy an individual program, just $100 extra. But you don't just get one program, you get over 50 programs on Mindvalley instantly available for you. You can go through a new program every month or do 2 programs in a month and up-level yourself in 24 unique areas of life in the coming year. But that's not all. Membership also means that you get access to Mindvalley live events with so many special guests.
What's happening here?
You're on our private social network. You're in a network of fellow members, and these are such incredible individuals. And we have memberships now in every country in the world. By the way, Eric, we're filming this right now in Tallinn, Estonia. And you were telling me about this student of yours, this Estonian student with a really cool story. Share that.
But the story that I was telling you about is my friend Kurt. And Kurt came out maybe 6 or 7 years ago, did our business freedom training. And at the time, he had just suffered a huge bankruptcy. He's Estonian, he'd moved to Stockholm, he'd restarted another business there, and he was working harder than you could possibly imagine. His health was going down the toilet, like everything was wrong, and he was working so hard to avoid yet another bankruptcy. At that time, his revenue was about $25,000 a month. 9 months later, they were doing $250,000 a month. He'd half exited from the business. He had complete business freedom. His whole life was transformed. He also incidentally transformed his body. He's one of our best WildFit case studies for before and after pictures. But then one day he wrote to me and he said, Eric, you saved my life today. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he reminded me that he'd done the iceberg exercise with me. And in the iceberg exercise, we identified something that could be a threat that he didn't think was such a big deal, but he still put the contingency plan in. What it was, 70% of his product was coming from one supplier. And I said, don't you think that's probably a problem? He goes, no, the supplier's robust, public company, everything's fine. But because of that exercise, he contacted the other supplier months ahead and said, can you be my backup supplier just in case I have a problem? And no kidding, one Friday, his supplier went out of business. And he'd already prepaid a bunch of orders. He was out of business.
Wow.
He was totally out of business. But then he called the other supplier and he goes, oh my God. And they said, you know what? When you put your application in, we approved your account, you've got credit terms with us, and we already stocked up on your buyer profile. And they filled all the orders for him. Completely saved his business. His employees never knew they were under threat. His family never knew he was under threat. Nobody even knew there was a problem because of one exercise. So
amazing. And that was just a lesson from one day.
That's right.
Right? So imagine how much this is going to add to your business. This is probably one of the best investments you can make in yourself and your business. Now, by the way, Eric, business owners are already really busy individuals, right? This program is 20 minutes a day. Explain to them the time investment concept.
Well, I think one of the things that I want to think about is when I am creating a program, my job is to make that program easy lifting for you. I don't want you to see the program itself as work, and so you won't. It'll be easy, entertaining, and engaging. And the fact of the matter is, we all know, most of us find a way to waste 20 minutes on Facebook or YouTube or TikTok or something these days, or doing something, or simply sitting in traffic. So it's a bite-sized chunk of activity. And then you will have small assignments to do. And in the early weeks, there'll be very light, small assignments, but they will build as you build your business freedom muscles so that by the time we get to the Inception Marketing Week, which is some heavy lifting, you will be ready to create phenomenal sales results in your business. So it's incremental, it's effective, and you will feel your progress week by week. And progress is so fundamental to motivation that by the end of week 2, you will absolutely have the momentum that makes you know you're transforming your business forever.
And what's cool is that, yes, when you first start, you are putting an extra 20 minutes a day, but it's only Monday to Friday. Saturday and Sunday you have off. But very rapidly, you start gaining back time because you're so much more effective. You gain back time. This program doesn't take away time, it gives you time. It doesn't even cost money relative to the amount of money it's likely going to give you. So if you are a business owner, consider enrolling your business in this program. There is a business link below the order menu. You can click on that. You can order in bulk for your team, and you can transform the way your team operates. Imagine how your team would look like if everybody had the right interview skills, if everybody was process-oriented, if everybody knew how to create contingency plans for icebergs. Imagine how incredible your business would be. Now, could some people leave you and start their own company? Maybe, but you might want to remember this quote. There was a business owner who asked a mentor of his, "What if I truly invest in growing my people and they leave me?" And the mentor said, "That's not the question. The question you should ask is, what if you didn't invest in growing them and they stayed?" Thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Eric. Scroll down below, click enroll, and I cannot wait to see you in our first class of The Path to Business Freedom.